Donald Trump has delivered a major salvo in his trade war, this time aimed squarely at Canada. In a letter addressed to Prime Minister Mark Carney and posted on social media, Trump said the U.S. will charge Canada a tariff of 35%.
The government of Canada will be responding by matching the U.S. approach.
$22 billion. That's not the jackpot at a Vegas slot machine. It's the price tag of Trump's latest blunder, and this time, the prize isn't cash. It's higher prices on beer, trucks, and just about everything else. That makes life bearable. Here's what happened. Trump woke up, looked at Canada, and decided, you know what this economy needs? A little chaos. So he slapped a 50% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum, because apparently your neighbor selling you affordable metal is a national threat. Canada responded like any good neighbor would, by punching back with the exact same $22 billion in tariffs. They didn't yell, they didn't tweet, they just hit copy and paste. Now things are heating up faster than a BBQ on the 4th of July. Electric vehicle motors up 12% in price. Beer can aluminum over $3,500 a ton, the highest since 2022. Pickup truck parts buckle up. Even your six-pack isn't safe anymore. And no, this isn't a joke. Beverage companies are already saying their summer discount plans might have to go on ice, and not in a good way. According to Canada's finance ministry, 284 American-made products are now hit with tariffs. That includes electric motors, aluminum coils, F-Series truck frames, all the good stuff. Why does this matter? Because 90% of the steel and half of the aluminum American companies use comes from Canada. Meanwhile, Canada buys 1 in every 5 tons of US steel exports. This is what you'd call shooting yourself in the foot and then handing your opponent the first aid kit. But Canada didn't stop there. Oh no, they turned this into a full-blown chess game. Every steel shipment heading north now has to include a full report, where it came from, how clean it is, how much carbon it pumped out. Why? Because 94% of Canadian steel is made using hydropower, not coal. So not only is their steel cleaner, it's now got the paperwork to prove it. Analysts are calling it a climate weapon. And for once, that's not a joke. While Trump's tossing around tariffs, like their tic tacs, Canada's quietly showing the world how to fight back with clean energy and actual planning. Meanwhile, Americans are about to pay more for beer, trucks, and batteries. 3 things that really shouldn't be political. So the real question, did Trump just torpedo his own electric vehicle plans just to pick a fight with the country that gave us maple syrup and hockey? Because with prices rising, automakers scrambling, and aluminum costs spiking faster than gas during election week, this whole thing looks less like a strategy and more like a really expensive temper tantrum. And here's the twist. If Trump doesn't walk this back, by July 21st, Canada's got more ammo, more money, and a few legal tricks up their sleeve too. But that's coming up next. Before we continue, click subscribe below. We don't sugarcoat. We don't protect politicians. We expose what others won't. Trump thought Canada would fold. Instead, they brought backup, $1.5 billion worth. That's how fast Ottawa fired off a support package to help Quebec's aluminum smelters survive the 50% tariff war. It wasn't just a press release. It was cold, hard cash, already flowing within days. But here's the twist. Just 7 days later, the Aluminum Association of Canada warned the money was nearly tapped out. Demand was so high, the budget's already gasping for air. And Mark Carney, he didn't blink. He stood at the podium and said, "We will not back down, only level up the game." Translation, he's ready to make Trump regret this even more. If Washington doesn't cool off before July 21st, Canada's ready to hit harder. Bigger tariffs, tighter quotas, and a squeeze on US metal that'll leave Detroit sweating. And Detroit is sweating. Over at Ford, they're already ringing the alarm bell. Their new union deal, it adds $850 to the cost of every single vehicle, even before factoring in the steel and aluminum price hike. Now toss in Trump's 50% tariff. It's like putting premium gas into a car with no wheels. A chilling report from J.D. Power, dated April 23rd, warns that automakers may have to eat 70% of the new cost themselves just to keep buyers from running for the hills. So who's really paying for Trump's trade war? Not Canada, not China. Ford, GM, and Tesla are footing the bill, quietly bleeding cash before most Americans even notice. And when they do notice, it'll be in the form of sticker shock. Anderson Economic Group estimates over $30 billion in added costs for American consumers in the first year alone, just from car parts. And in the pickup truck category, prices could jump $8,000 per unit. Let that sink in. That's almost 10 times what Canada estimated for its own raw material increase. Just 850 Canadian dollars per vehicle. Canada eats a slice. The US swallows the whole pie. And it's not just the car companies. Over at Samsung SDI, they're warning about rising costs for battery materials like aluminum-coated foil and copper film. The exact stuff needed for EVs. Their factories in Indiana and Michigan are already feeling the pressure. They're not saying yet if Tesla, GM Ultium, or Rivian will raise prices. But they are saying that margins this quarter will be as thin as the battery foil they're trying to build. And here's the kicker. All those 7,500 green tax credits from the IRA, they're now at risk of being wiped out by material price hikes. That tax break was supposed to make EVs more affordable. But if aluminum and steel costs keep climbing, that federal credit turns into a glorified coupon with nothing left on the shelf. The $22 billion earthquake he set off might be just the start, because what comes next? Canada's pulling out the big guns, billions in green steel, clean energy upgrades, and a legal trap aimed straight at Trump's trade policy. And this time, beer might not be the only thing that goes flat. While Trump was busy bragging about tariffs on TV, Canada opened the vault, and inside, a whopping 4.8 billion Canadian dollars for something called the Greensteel Fund, a fancy name for what might be the biggest power move of this entire trade fight. This isn't just a bailout, it's an upgrade, and it's already happening. Over in Hamilton, the massive ArcelorMittal Dofasco steel plant has already swallowed 1.8 billion Canadian dollars of that fund. In Sault Ste. Marie, Algoma Steel grabbed another $420 million. The rest of the cash is coming from Canada's $8 billion net zero accelerator, which now laser focuses on EV batteries and clean steel. The plan? Cut steel emissions by 60% before 2030. That's not a slogan. That's a factory overhaul. No more old school blast furnaces belching smoke. They're being replaced with hydrogen-powered systems and electric arc furnaces powered by clean hydro from Quebec. Even the recycled scrap gets tracked. Every single coil of steel now comes with a carbon passport, showing exactly how it was made. And what's Carney doing in the middle of all this? He's standing there with a smirk, holding a blueprint that basically says, while Trump was tweeting, we rewired the metal industry. But that's just the first punch. Canada also filed a WTO lawsuit, case DS-635, accusing the US of violating global trade rules when it jacked tariffs up to 50%. And sure, Trump's been blocking WTO judges since 2019, so the system is jammed for now. But here's where it gets interesting. Canada quietly shared its evidence with Japan and South Korea, two countries Trump also hit with extra metal duties. If all three file WTO cases together, that's not a complaint, that's a multinational ambush, and it doesn't stop there. Starting July 21st, every federal construction project in Canada, bridges, roads, power plants, must only use Canadian steel and aluminum. At the same time, they're putting a block on Chinese steel sneaking in through the US border that forces Ford, GM, Tesla, and even soda companies to choose. Keep buying US parts and pay a 50% penalty, or switch to green Canadian metal and stay in business. Carney calls it the three-pronged assault. First, tariffs that hit the US right back. Second, green funding to modernize Canadian steel. Third, legal pressure through the WTO and global allies. This isn't about revenge, it's about control. If the US keeps doubling down, every American pickup truck will carry an extra 850 Canadian dollars in material costs. Meanwhile, Canada finishes upgrading its steel lines just in time to sell zero carbon metal to Europe, where the carbon border tax is kicking in. That means Canada makes money, while Trump makes voters angry about beer prices and car loans. So now the ball's in Trump's court. He can back off, drop the tariffs, and save face, or double down and risk sending beer, batteries, and Buicks into price chaos. Because at this point, the electric pickup fresh off the Texas factory line runs on aluminum priced in Quebec. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Team Greensteel or Team Trade War? And don't forget to subscribe to Civic Chatterbox, where we break the headlines down to the bolts, the budgets, and the BS.